My last argument is forced performance. When CPS and the court orders me to perform, to attend classes, to submit evaluations, or to complete services, and I have not been convicted of any crime, that is compelled performance. In contract law, this is what is known as a unilateral contract. CPS and the court are the only ones receiving any consideration. They're receiving compliance, they're receiving documentation from my UAs, and they receive control. The only thing I receive is the threat of losing my children. That is not mutual assent, which is what is required under contract. That is coercion, which is illegal. In fact, the structure imposed here resembles a contract of adhesion, a one-sided agreement offered by a dominant party with no room for negotiation and no meaningful choice. I am not entering into this freely. I'm being told, do this or lose your family. That is not a contract. That is compulsion. Under Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 of the United States Constitution, the Contract Clause imposes conditions that make lawful performance impossible, or when a state imposes conditions that make lawful performance impossible, especially when those conditions contradict constitutional protections, it creates a legal impossibility. That's a breach, not by the individual, but by the state itself. And more fundamentally, that is not just a contractual issue, it's a constitutional one. The 13th Amendment prohibits slavery and involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime wherefore a party shall have been duly convicted. I have not been convicted, yet I am being forced to perform under the threat of losing my family. That is involuntary servitude. The Constitution does not permit the state to compel labor or performance from a free citizen who has not been convicted of a crime. When it does so, under the color of law, through coercion and without due process, it violates both the 13th Amendment and the Contracts Clause, and it's acting ultra vires, which means beyond its powers. That is not voluntary agreement. It is forced transaction imposed under duress, structured as a unilateral contract, enforced like a contract of adhesion, and made impossible to perform without violating constitutional rights. That is not justice. That is structural coercion. Ignorantiae juris non excusat.